Last week, Bitcoin looked like it was about to die. Then on Friday, the SpaceX IPO hits, the biggest in history. Then right on cue, the Iran peace deal is on again, and this time, maybe for real. And this morning, the risk tears off like a dirty band-aid, and everything rips with it. $1 trillion is added to US stocks at the open. Oil is in freefall, and Bitcoin is back to 67K. It feels like we're in the all clear. But here's what's troubling me. That same IPO just made Elon Musk the first trillionaire in history, and it's priced at 67 times sales. In the same week, this market is as overvalued as it's been since the Dotcom top in 2000. Every blow-off top has a moment like this. The coronation. The party so loud it feels like it can't end. And don't blink now, but tomorrow morning, the one force that's cracked this market 4 separate times, the Bank of Japan, moves again. So what if this isn't the all clear? What if it's the top? And all those trillions pouring into the party are about to go looking for a new home. This is Truth Block. I'm Hurley. Let's mine truth. Okay, real quick before we get into it. A lot of you who watch this show are not subscribed. So if you want the truth underneath the headlines every single day, hit subscribe on Simply Bitcoin and turn on the notification bell so you stay in the loop. All right, let's get into it. The mood sure flipped fast. Days ago, this market was bracing for a deeper crash. Bitcoin's seen the worst sentiment in 4 years. Then, SpaceX goes public in the biggest debut ever. And the Iran deal that's been jerking us around for weeks suddenly looks real, with the signing set for Friday in Geneva. And just like that, the risk premium drained out of everything. But remember, the market's pricing a done deal that isn't signed yet. But that's your catalyst, and that's why everything's in the green. Here's the thing. A relief rally is a hook. It feels like safety, and that's actually the exact moment you should be paying the most attention. Because I think we just watched the AI Mania get its crown. On Friday, SpaceX didn't just go public. It went public at $1.75 trillion. That's 67 times sales. And Elon Musk, the richest man who's ever lived, became the first trillionaire. Let's sit with that trillionaire number for a bit, because it's not what it looks like. Nobody counted $1 trillion. They calculated it. The reason the richest man in history keeps changing hands every few years isn't that men keep getting richer. It's that the dollar keeps getting smaller. The ruler is shrinking. That's the trick. Now look at the timing. That's the stock market divided by the money supply, going back 40 years. You can see 2 distinct peaks. One's the dot-com top in 2000. The other is right now. SpaceX rang the bell at the most overvalued moment this market's produced in a generation. So is the top in? Don't take it from me. I'm just a Bitcoiner. Take it from Visser. He's a markets guy that trades this for a living, and he respects the tech. Watch him stack up everything that's now working against the most crowded trade on Earth on the Palm podcast.
Do you worry at all about the Anthropic and OpenAIs and the pending IPOs and all that stuff from these stories? Or do you feel like the demand for this is just so off the charts that none of that matters?
Well, I think there's 2 separate answers. Of course, it matters from a stock perspective. Does it matter for the companies being a bubble? No. Does it matter from the, and I'll go through why. Does it matter from the companies, one of them being in trouble? Everyone thinks OpenAI is in trouble. I don't see it that way because we're still in the very early stages of adoption, the very early stages. So I think a lot of the issue is the acceleration again. And I'm going to keep saying this again and again. And I think people need to, to fully grasp it. If this was just software, there's no shortages or bottlenecks. Part of the issue that comes in on this is you talked about the prices going lower. The other side is the cost of producing the tokens is going up dramatically. And when I mean dramatically, we're talking about 4 times where it was a year ago. And it might get cheaper, over time, but that's not happening yet. And we have bottlenecks. So can we give them the capacity they need is one problem to be able to sustain the ARR. So it's great if you have more adoption, but it's like, hey, we have 1,000 people that want to come in the restaurant tonight, but we only have 20 seats. Well, you're not making new seats, so you're in trouble. So you can charge more prices, you make it more exclusive, and that's what ends up happening with great restaurants. The model situation is going to be a problem, in my opinion, for the near term. And that's why they're racing to the market. When you connect all the dots, why are they all coming to the market at the same time? Why did Google raise money? Why did Meta say a week and a half later that they were going to come to the market for tens of billions? Why is SpaceX, which is an AI company, Anthropic, OpenAI, and then OpenAI Wall Street Journal article this week, price competition, we're going to lower prices. Like, I think it's a problem. And if that was not enough, you mentioned something critical. DeepSeek is a major story that did not get any press in the last month. So they not only released their model, which on a comparable basis is very close to the models, but they reduced their price costs dramatically. The AI Chinese stocks, the model stocks, are selling off. And the reason is because they're in a deflationary situation. And that has always been my belief, is that these models will be commoditized, that you don't need to use the most expensive ones, and that the corporations haven't figured out yet how to use them. When you put all that together and then you add in Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump want to own part of the companies. I posted on X, there are so many headwinds. When the Pope speaks out against the models, like, how many things do you want to have where people are like, slow this down? But I happen to agree with one thing. We are getting closer and closer to AGI because coding is getting better and better. That is the next step to it. We've been doing it without Blackwell and Vera Rubin. Now we're going to have those as well. This is going to accelerate. So for everyone like just thinking there's no downside and that these curves are going to walk out, it's not going to happen that way.
Listen to what Visser is really saying. The models are getting commoditized. Costs to run them are climbing while prices drop. Bernie and Trump both want the government to own a piece, and the Pope's out here warning about it. And here's the tell. Why is every one of these companies sprinting to go public at the exact same moment? Because when the music's this loud, you dance. You get out while the price is still good. That's the anatomy of a top. A real technology priced like it can never disappoint. Remember, the internet was real too, and it still wiped people out in 2001. But here's what matters for us. Every dollar shoved into this build-out is a dollar that is not sitting in scarce, neutral savings. So when a boom like this overbuilds, and they always overbuild, all that trapped money has to go somewhere. So if capital is rotating back toward Bitcoin, the worst thing you can do is get forced out of your stack before it does. The price dips, you need cash, so you sell at the bottom and hand the government a taxable event on the way out. There's a better way to move, and it's why I use Ledn. Ledn lets you borrow against your Bitcoin without selling a single sat. Ledn has had over $11 billion in loans funded since 2018, with 10 straight proof of reserve audits. And they came through 2022, when half this industry torched their customers, with 0 customer Bitcoin lost. Your coins at Ledn are ring-fenced and never rehypothecated. So visit learn.ledn.io/simply to learn more. This rotation idea is the center of a piece Pierre Rochard dropped this week on X. He called it the Great Capital Rotation, and it really helped reframe this bear market for me. The 2010s boom was capital light. Software ate the world on rented servers and 0% rates. And Bitcoin soaked up the surplus savings. The 2020s flipped it. AI is the most capital-hungry build-out of our lifetime. Chips, data centers, and gigawatts of power. And it's vacuuming up the savings that used to flow into things like Bitcoin. And this is why Bitcoin fell dead for the last 2 years. Every capital-heavy boom rhymes. Railroads, fiber, telecom, housing. It goes shortage, panic building, to overbuilt, to glut. Every time. And when the glut hits, that trapped money hunts for an exit, for something scarce, with no debt to roll and nothing to depreciate. Rochard thinks we're only halfway through the AI build, so this is a setup, not a date on the calendar. But the direction is clear. But don't take it from me or Rochard. Take it from the ultimate suit coiner, Michael Saylor, describing the exact same rotation, naming SpaceX while he does it on his latest Cointelegraph interview that dropped this afternoon.
I think that, it's a tricky, the summer is difficult because it's the AI summer where you've got $500 billion of capital getting sucked into AI deals from Anthropic, OpenAI, SpaceX, Google, etc. And so that's creating a temporary market location. I think that when we get past those deals and we come out the back end, I think we'll see a nice rotation of capital back into Bitcoin. We'll recover. And I would think we'll recover by the end of the year. Right now, we're just kind of in the middle of a unpleasant drawdown.
New highs by the end of this year?
I think we could. I think we should definitely see a recovery by the end of the year. I don't know why I don't know if we'll get the new high within 6 months, but I would think over the next 12 months we'll make a new high.
There it is. $500 billion sucked into AI deals, then the rotation back into Bitcoin behind it. Saylor says year-end like it's easy, but I'd hold that loose, because the road back runs straight through a fight nobody outside Bitcoin is even watching. If these trillions rotate back, which Bitcoin catches them? That's the Bitcoin civil war tearing up the timeline right now. As I see it, on one side you have the purists, the self-custody, the real Bitcoin, the maxis, who say the treasury companies and the products are a distraction from sound money. Parker Lewis puts it like this: a treasury company should never trade for more than the Bitcoin it holds, and the safest play on the board is holding your own keys. Then you have the suits, like Saylor and the other treasury companies. And it boiled over again a few weeks ago because Strategy sold a sliver of Bitcoin and the purists came after him. Here's Saylor's answer to the whole fight.
I think Bitcoin is won. I think that Bitcoin is won economically, technically, ethically, and is being globally embraced. The only thing that's frustrating me maybe is that it's not always perceived by mainstream TradFi investors. They don't understand it yet. Mainstream media doesn't understand it. And then there's just a lot of dysfunctional, squabbling back and forth on X or Twitter between various crypto and Bitcoin believers arguing over what I think are second and third order issues. And I think that, we'd be better off in the community if we just focused upon growing the industry by a factor of 100, because generally all of the arguments in the Bitcoin community are between people that 99% agree with each other, that pick the last 1%, and then they fight over some third order issue that really won't matter to either of them in a decade. I don't think it's the purest Bitcoiners, the fundamentalists, have been criticizing me for being unwilling to sell the Bitcoin. The fundamentalists take the position that Bitcoin is money and a medium of exchange, and you're supposed to pay for things with it. So in fact, I would say the fundamentalist would take the position that, yeah, you should use it, as a medium of exchange, and this is a good thing. I would say that the Twitter trolls, it's really just very loud Twitter trolls who are in the business of gotcha, saying, I see that once you tweeted never sell your Bitcoin, and I also see your company sold Bitcoin. This looks hypocritical. I'm going to make a big deal out of this and feign indignation. They're not Bitcoin fundamentalists. They're not Bitcoin maximalists. They're not equity investors. They're not credit investors. They're not even investors. They're really just Twitter trolls that are in the business of posting viral content. And what you see on X is stuff runs viral the more you feign indignation. And anyone that's followed me knows that for 5 years, we've never promised not to sell the Bitcoin. In fact, we've sold Bitcoin back 4 years ago. We sold Bitcoin. And we've said very clearly, of course, we'll sell the Bitcoin. So anyone that's a serious investor knows this is, for a year, we've been talking about this on conference calls. And so there's nothing surprising about this in the least. This is just a convenient opportunity for people to grandstand on social media and get their stuff to run viral with a headline.
Here's where I land, and it's not necessarily with either tribe. The maxis are right. The destination is sound money, you hold yourself. And even Rochard, who's sympathetic to these treasury companies, says don't go all in on them, because a leveraged one can get forced to sell at the worst possible moment and wipe out the people who trusted it. That risk is real, and we shouldn't paper over it. But the suits are right too. Markets don't march to a Bitcoin standard in a straight logical line. People aren't spreadsheets. They move on fear and greed. And the products, the credit, the yield, that's the machine that drags the next trillion through the door. That's the on-ramp, whether the purists like it or not. So watch what happens when you stop treating this like a cage match. When the rotation finally comes, this isn't a fight where one side wins the money and the other loses. It's a rising tide. Both sides win. The maxis hold the North Star so we never forget what this was for. The suits pave the highway that gets the world here. We need both. And here's the one line that actually matters underneath all of it. Whichever camp you ride with, somewhere in your stack you have to own real Bitcoin you control. Not the paper, not the promise. Not an IOU with a great logo. The real thing. In your actual hands. Don't hate the player, don't hate the game. Just don't show up to the biggest wealth rotation of your life holding nothing but somebody else's paper. Now, I won't pretend the rotation starts clean tomorrow. It might get worse first. Tomorrow morning, the Bank of Japan is expected to hike to 1% for the first time since 1995. That's the carry trade, the single thread that's unraveled this market 4 separate times in 2 years. And on Wednesday, Kevin Warsh runs his first meeting as Fed chair. And for the first time this whole cycle, the Fed isn't riding to the rescue. As we found out last week, inflation's back over 4%, and the cuts everyone counted on are likely off the table for now. So this relief rally could give a big chunk back and fast. But a shakeout into this exact setup isn't the thing to fear. It's the gift. Bitcoin's only about 10% above its 4-year average, which is the bottom 12% of its entire history against trend. We are in peak disbelief right here. The moment right before everybody pretends they were bullish all along. The long-term holders are sitting in profit and refusing to sell, while the tourists puke their coins. That's not surrender. That's the strong hands quietly taking the other side. So here's my read. We could get one more shakeout in a turn late this summer. Then a slow grind back towards 6 figures, and 2027 starts to rhyme with the setup years before every big run. The bear market is the window. The whole game is to build your savings before the rotation is obvious. Because once it's obvious, the price is already gone. And remember, that only counts if the Bitcoin is actually yours. And that's where the Bitcoin way comes in. Their whole job is making the answer to who holds your Bitcoin one word: you. The Bitcoin way is a team with over 25 years of cybersecurity experience that'll sit with you one-on-one and walk you through real self-custody. Your own keys, your own wallet, your own node. And they'll even help you lock down everything around it so nobody slips in the side door. So go to thebitcoinway.com/Hurley to grab your free consultation today. All right, let me leave you with one thing that I can't stop chewing on. Look at who's actually selling right now. Not the retail guy panic dumping at 60 grand. The insiders. SpaceX, OpenAI, Anthropic, all sprinting to the public market at the same time, at the richest valuations in history, handing their shares to the crowd. That's not optimism. That's smart money cashing out at the top and selling you the dream on the way down. That's what an IPO at the top really is. It's an exit. Somebody who got in early getting out. And the public buys the bag. So when this rotation finally turns, when that wall of money comes looking for a new home, you don't want to be holding somebody's exit liquidity. You want to be holding the one asset on earth that was never anybody's exit. No insiders, no lockup, no roadshow, just 21 million forever. Doing the only thing it's ever done, telling the truth about the money. So while the richest man alive is a headline about a shrinking dollar, Bitcoin is the one ruler that doesn't shrink. And the people who see that before the rotation gets loud are the ones who will be very glad they were early. All right, that's what I've got. But now I want to hear from you. Is the SpaceX IPO the top of the AI bubble? Or am I early on this one? Where do you land on the purist versus suit war? Is it a real fight? Or are both sides just building the same on-ramp and yelling at each other? And if the Bank of Japan or the Fed hands us one more shakeout this week, are you waiting or backing up the truck? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if this one cleared up some noise for you, hit the like button and send it to a friend who wants to sell for SpaceX stock. And of course, subscribe to Simply Bitcoin so you don't miss what's next. We'll see you on Thursday.